What's going on, guys? So in front of me, I got quite a bit of stuff spread out here, and this is going to be a very interesting video for those of you who want to understand a little bit more about weight distribution hitches, especially this one right here. I've never featured this hitch on my channel before, and it's actually one of my favorites. So there's a lot of reasons why I like this, but we're also going to talk about this Timbren SES system that I have sitting out here as well, and maybe some of the misconceptions folks have whenever they're looking at one versus the other, because one of them may be right for your application, but the other one may be right for someone else's application. So there's really nothing wrong between the two systems here, but understanding specifically what they do and how they work is very important. Hang tight, I'll be right back. Okay, so first of all, let's talk a little bit about this Timbren SES system, since I'm not going to be focusing much on this in this video. A lot of folks want to try to figure out why something like this, shows a picture of something like this on it. Basically, you see the back of your truck loaded up with stuff squatting down, and then you see a level riding system right there. And if a Timbren system can substitute that of a weight distribution system, basically, can you use this in place of weight distribution? And the answer is no. This system right here is absolutely phenomenal at what it's designed to do. And what it's designed to do is to help eliminate or reduce the sag of your truck under heavy loads. So what does that mean? Basically, these replace the factory bump stops that you have on your vehicle. Now, this specific setup right here is actually designed for a Nissan Frontier. If you watched a video that I recently posted, we showcased a yellow Frontier that my dad bought so he could haul around his small little E-Pro travel trailer that they actually bought to hitch up to their Class B motorhome. But if they just want to take out the travel trailer, they wanted to know if they could tow it with that specific Frontier. And after everything was said and done, loaded up, it put quite a bit of sag on that Frontier, and the Frontier doesn't have a lot of suspension travel left. Even though the roughly 600 to 700 pounds worth of tongue weight on the travel trailer is not exceeding the cargo capacity of his truck, even when it's loaded with people inside of it, he still is seeing a significant amount of sag. So weight distribution isn't so much needed on his truck as is the ability to level out his ride. So why does the Timbren product exist? Well, because there's a lot of pickup trucks that fall into that category. Basically, you get a pickup truck, you load it full of weight, and then you realize that it's sagging even if you're not exceeding your truck's cargo capacity. And part of that is because a lot of trucks nowadays are designed to be very comfortable. They're designed to ride more like luxury SUVs and less like pickup trucks. So a product like this, replacing a factory bump stop, which may only be half the height of this, is going to give him the ability to essentially engage the bump stop at a much sooner level or a much sooner increment whenever you're loading up the back, and then this is going to bear the weight of whatever's in the bed of his truck. These are not designed to improve your payload capacity. These don't do anything in terms of increasing what the truck was rated to carry. All these do is essentially act as a rubber hollow spring that replaces the factory bump stop and helps keep the truck level. Now, why would you want one of these and why wouldn't you? So again, we talked about the scenarios in which something like this might come in really handy. Again, you have a truck, let's say it's a half-ton truck or a mid-size truck, and you load stuff in the back, you're not exceeding your payload, but it's sagging quite a bit. That's a really great use case for this. And I think that's probably the main reason why folks look at something like this, is they want to level out their ride. But there's a downfall to it. And that downfall is that because this is a thick rubber hollowed spring, that if you had it engaged all the time, even when you're not carrying anything, it could lead to a very harsh ride. So the folks at Timbren, they actually design it so it actually rests about an inch above the cradle or the portion that it makes contact to whenever loaded up. So whenever you see this loaded up, you still have about this much space of movement for your leaf spring to move up and down before it makes contact with this. So whenever you load up the back of your truck, this is going to drop down, and if you pretend this is your leaf spring, it'll then get closer until it loads on top of your leaf spring, or whatever the cradle point is for whenever this drops down, whether it's your axle or some platform you have to put in place. And then that's when this will finally engage and start giving you that that load leveling, or basically the inability for the truck to really squat down any lower because this is acting as a big bump stop. So that's how this works. Again, it does not replace weight distribution. You should not use this to replace weight distribution. You can use this to augment weight distribution, so you can put something like this in place on your truck just to prevent too much sag, even if you are in a scenario where, you know, your truck is sagging, yet you still haven't, you know, exceeded your truck's cargo capacity. But again, very cool product. It works very well. I installed these on my F-250 that I had a long time ago, and they work really well. Again, they were designed to do a specific task, and they functioned really well performing that task, and they're relatively inexpensive. So definitely something that you might want to consider adding to your vehicle if you get a lot of squat whenever the truck is loaded. Okay, so now coming to the star of the show. This is an entirely different product than the Timbren. Again, Timbren has its space, and it's designed to perform a very specific task. This, at the same time, performs a different task, yet a very important task in itself. Now, this is a weight distribution hitch I have never actually featured on my channel. This one incorporates sway control into it as well, but it does it in a little different way. In my opinion, this is very similar to an equalizer setup, but more like the 2-point equalizer setup and not the 4-point. But there's an advantage to this over an equalizer setup. So let's talk about that. So this is the Reese Steadi-Flex weight distribution sway control hitch. And you know, when you look at it right here, it looks very similar to a lot of other weight distribution hitches on the market, right? You have your two big spring arms over here. You have your shank assembly right here. You have the hitch head assembly. You have your helper bar to get the actual spring bars on top of the L brackets right here. The L brackets clamp to the front A-frame section of your travel trailer or your trailer in general. And you're set up to go, right? Well, not so much with this. Let's go through the components of this, and I'm going to talk to you about why this is something you should consider if you're looking for a quality weight distribution setup. First of all, this one does not come with the ball attachment already on it, so you want to mount a ball. This is a relatively light-duty assembly in terms of what you're supposed to tow with this. So this has a 600 to 800 pound tongue weight rating on it versus, you know, some of the other ones that have well over 1,000 pounds, like some of your equalizer products. This is going to be designed for a travel trailer that falls within that 4,000 to 8,000 pound gross vehicle weight rating limit. And why this is a good setup is specifically because of what they do that's different than other companies that utilize this similar type of assembly. First of all, let's go through it. So right here are your washers, and this washer assembly mounts right inside of here. Basically, there's a hole right in there. This goes in place, and you have washers, and you space the washers out dependent on how much angle you want on this hitch head. So let me show you something so you can see how this rocks. If this was installed in the vehicle and I have this positioned up like this, then it's not going to be providing as much downward force towards these spring bars. But as you can imagine, the more I position this down, or the more washers I add, whenever I have my L brackets in place, this position down, whenever these brackets are here, are going to force these spring bars to push down. So whenever I load them on top of the L brackets, there's more weight there. And why would you want more weight? Well, it's kind of a twofold thing. First of all, the weight helps with weight distribution. That's how a weight distribution hitch works. As I apply more pressure, more downward pressure on these L brackets, which are attached to the trailer, it creates kind of a bowing effect like this. It reduces weight from the center of the vehicle, basically where the trailer and hitch meet, and it transfers it across to the ends, to the back of the trailer and the front of the pickup truck. And that's how weight distribution occurs. But why is this so different than any of the other, you know, similar products on the market? It's because of the L brackets. So again, this is the attachment that would go on one side of your A-frame. This is the other side. And many of you may have started zeroing in on this right here. So what is that? That is an automotive style brake pad. So the way Equalizer and Kurt and several other brands kind of create sway control is these spring bars push down on your L brackets, and that friction of the two metals pushing against each other creates sway control. On the 4-point equalizer system, there's also a lot of pressure right here. Basically, where this fits in right here, it's squeezing really, really tight, and it's preloaded with a lot of pressure there, and that's another friction point. So on the 4-point equalizer, you have friction right here where these squeeze up against these bars, and then you also have friction right here where these bars are pressing down against these L brackets. So as you turn and these bars are sliding on the L bracket, that friction creates sway control. Essentially, it limits the free movement of the trailer from the tow vehicle. Why this is different is because instead of putting friction here, you're still going to have a little bit of it. That's why there's such a large surface area right here. So whenever you have this tilted down or back and these bars are pressing down against these, you're going to have force and friction that's in play right here, but you're also going to be utilizing a brake pad assembly with the steel on the spring bars. And this is going to give you not only an enhanced amount of sway control, but it's also going to make it a lot quieter, and it's going to give you more of a braking type effect because you're actually using brake material. But because of this, it's even more important that you ensure that these spring bars right here are resting flat against that brake material. So if I were to set this upright like this, see if I can do it here. Whenever this is mounted inside of here like that, and then you have the bracket loaded up with the spring bar right here, that area right there needs to be flat. If it's not, if it's at an angle, then you're going to wear away just a small amount of the brake material and you're not going to have much surface contact. So you want it to be as flat as possible when it's sliding along those brake pads. I could probably take a clip out here and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so let me walk you through it a little bit more. So whenever it's mounted, you want this to be as flat as possible with that braking material, because that's going to ensure you have the most surface area making contact with your actual spring bar. And with that downward pressure pushing on this, it's going to give you the most sway control possible. Because again, this is a brake material. When it makes contact with this, it's going to act like a brake. And the entire point of sway control, not necessarily weight distribution, but sway control, is that friction right there, plus the tension right here with all of that weight loaded on here, that it's going to prevent the trailer and truck from hinging, from basically, wind contact and things hitting the side of your trailer, causing it to hinge at the hitch. It makes it much more difficult for that free motion, and that's how you get sway control. So I wanted to show you guys kind of a little bit of a compare and contrast between these two items, but more importantly, I really wanted to show you guys a little bit more about this Reese Steadi-Flex because it's a phenomenal weight distribution setup that may be a little bit better for some folks in terms of capability and what you're looking for. I like that they make this setup in a light duty, medium, and kind of a heavy duty configuration because there's a lot of folks with lighter trailers and lighter tow vehicles that still want the benefits of weight distribution and sway control. And I think that this setup does a great job of kind of balancing that need. Now, what you do want to be sure you do is not go overboard on a weight distribution setup if it doesn't match the configuration of the trailer and truck or the trailer and tow vehicle that'll be towing it. The reason why I say this is because there's some folks out there that think overkill is always better. So they'll get a 1,500 pound hitch setup, weight distribution hitch setup that can tow up to 15,000 pounds worth of trailer, and they'll hitch it to a small travel trailer or something that's 4,000 or 5,000 pounds, thinking that you're just getting overkill. When in fact, you're actually doing the opposite. What you're doing is you're putting a setup in place that has the rigidity needed for a much heavier trailer and not the flexibility that you need for the trailer you're installing it on. So it's really important that you get the right hitch, the right weight distribution setup. Don't go too far outside of the rating of the specific trailer truck combination that you're going to be using it with, and you match it as close as possible. So this one again, 400 to 600 pounds weight distribution spring bars, 6,000 pounds maximum gross trailer weight, 600 pound maximum hitch weight with the two bars. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll put links in the description of this video to both of these products if these are something you're interested in. Again, you have a truck that's squatting down, you need to level it out, but you're not necessarily going over its capacity. The Timbren SES is an absolutely phenomenal, super low-cost way to help your truck ride more level and more stable whenever you are going to be, loading stuff into it. And yeah, this is just an outstanding weight distribution hitch setup from Reese that I've never shown before, and I definitely want to show you guys this. Guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.